You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody. That music means it's time once again for a little program we like to call around these parts the option block. A little bit of education, analysis, unusual activity, a whole bunch of your questions, mix it all together, and you get the option block. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. You guys know the deal by now. If you want to go deep into the archives of this or pretty much any other program, dozen or so programs, 11-year history of the network, the easiest place to do that, of course, theoptionsinsider.com, or, of course, via our mobile app. If you want to subscribe, set it and forget it, let our shows just come to you on your device of choice, then iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, pick your platform, and you're off to the races. And if you want to join us live, you can do so every Monday and Thursday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. A little behind-the-scenes action. See how the sausage is made. And however you join us live after the fact, we do love to hear from you. Hit us up, questions, comments, insights, pearls of wisdom. We do, yes, we do enjoy hearing, except for the Rock Lobster. I can't speak for him. For the rest of us, we all enjoy hearing from you guys. And speaking of which, let's spin the old all-star panel wheel. See who we got joining us on this fine program today. Let's start off spinning it all the way. Let's land first. Usually he's close to home. These days, he's out in the mobile office. We don't know where the heck he is. Joining us from parts unknown, we have Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Wealth Advisors. Uncle Mike, welcome to the program. I'm not used to not having you join us from your scenic abode there in St. Charles, so you're throwing me off my game here, sir.
That's what I do. I'm kind of, I'm sneaky like that.
So where are you right now, sir?
I am in parts unknown.
Yes, that's true.
I really am.
you have no idea where you are. That's the thing. I'm somewhere. There was a road sign 50 miles ago, and I'm still going. So let's pray to the internet Skype gods that the connection holds steady throughout the show. Also joining us on the complete, I think we think he's on the other side of the country. We don't know. Tussaw could be right outside your front door, Rock Lobster. We never know. We are joined by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, how are things going in northern New England?
You know what? It's a lovely sunny day. The dock is in. I think Tussaw beat me this year, though, and I'm looking forward to some fishing and maybe talking about some options. Who knows? I don't know what order that is in because I'm actually not doing the show sitting on the dock, so I'm in my office in front of a screen, get ready and able to talk some options.
That's where you should be when you're doing shows, not sitting on your doctor. That would not be appropriate. To let the man go do his business. That's not you guys and your doctor abuse up there. I'm going to take it up with the AMA over there. And joining us a little bit farther south, still we're keeping it in New England because, one New Englander wasn't, and actually I'm a former New Englander, so I guess this would make it 3 if you count me still. I'm 20 years removed, but a former New Englander. But going back down to southern, not that far from my old stomping grounds, southern New England to good old Rhode Island, I believe Providence, where we are joined by old friend of the show, even though he hasn't been on in a while. He is Greg Stevens, the Vice President of Product Development for Options over there at Fidelity. Greg, welcome back to the show. It has been quite a while.
It has been quite a while. Thanks for having me back. And, as Andrew was saying, and just enjoying some sunny weather for the first time in what seems like forever.
Forever.
Yeah, you New Englanders, one thing unites all New Englanders is a constant grudging and begrudging of the weather. The weather is never good if you ask any New Englander, no matter where they are. Well, Greg, I know you've been doing a lot of crazy stuff since the last time I think it was towards the end of last year, the last time you joined us, including, I believe, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. So catch us up really quickly on what the heck you've been up to since the last time you joined us on the program.
Yeah, I made a little trip to Africa, climbed Kilimanjaro, did a little safari and seen, the big five while I was there. So, yeah, it was fantastic. And it was time to claw my way back to the States and, get back into the groove of things. So, but great trip for sure.
I think you have the pride of place of being the first guest on the network who has climbed one of the big five there, at least as far as I know. No one else has mentioned it to me. So as far as I know, you have that dubious distinction. Your award will be in the mail forthwith. So now I think your extra award is going to be, we get to dive right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block. This is indeed the portion of the program where we break down, surprise, surprise, what the heck was trading today. A bit of a weird one, kind of a shrug to end the day here. At least most of the major indices in the red. You got to look a little bit to find one. S&P kind of pretty much unched. It was going to rally a little bit, then it was giving it up, then it was going to rally. It was kind of one of those kind of days. Listen, nothing could really figure out a firm direction, and then certainly couldn't get there with much gusto. Again, S&P off about 0.25% or so. The Dow a little bit more. The tech-heavy NASDAQ, I guess you can call it the leader to the downside, off not quite 0.5%, about 0.4% or so. And of course, with all this indecision, means VIX cash taking a little bit of a break today as well, but pretty much unched on the day. Did dip low though for a while. Did get down as low as about 1265. So my prediction for fall views tomorrow, I think it was looking pretty good there for a while. But I think if we stay around here, that would fit me much better. I think that's closer. The latter is closer to the Greasy Meatballs prediction, which again I told him on the show I would not be upset if that were to come to pass. But I made my prediction, I think, around these levels. So a lot to sink our teeth into here on a bit of a weird week and a kind of a weird so far at least ending up to the week. Greg, your other award for being our guest is you get pride of place here on the Trading Block. What's been catching your eye this week and indeed today over there at Fidelity?
Yeah, I think like you're saying, it's just been kind of an average week with not too much going on. We had a healthy slew of earnings announcements, and I think the thing that continues to drive the markets and drive some underpinning conversations are interest rates and the talk coming out of and into China. So I think that those tend to seem to be driving some of the changes today. And as you were mentioning, it's kind of a blah day until there was a comment or a tweet by our president saying that he wasn't looking. It didn't look too good for the China negotiations. But as you mentioned, we kind of finished a little flat, a little to the downside. But I think those two things are continuing, as they play out, going to play a big part in the market. As far as, what we were seeing here at Fidelity today, I mean, a lot of earnings driven, a lot of earnings driven activity. Walmart, Cisco, with their earnings announcements trading a bit to the downside today. One, interesting one I didn't know a whole lot about that made our radar was the Blink Charging Company. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, but they're in the electric vehicle charging stations, both consumer and commercial, and it seems like they had a pretty good quarter today. But that made the radar, along with just the usual suspects: Apple, Amazon, the SPYs, Microsoft, and so on. So kind of just an average day, I would say.
Yeah, I'm pulling up this chart right now for Blink, and you're right. This has the chart of like a crypto name. It's just off to the races. This thing was trading it looks like
that one surprised me today,
only has like a 6-month chart, so it has not been around too long. Ticker symbol BLNK. Listeners, Blink Charging. They were $1.50 as of about a week, almost 2 weeks ago. And today they closed at $8 This is, if you're not familiar with them, and I certainly wasn't, this is formerly Car Charging Group, owner, operator, and provider of electric vehicle charging equipment. So I'm guessing they struck a deal with someone, maybe a Tesla. Tesla tends to move names like this when they're announced, or maybe they're getting acquired. I don't know what the deal is, but whatever it is, this thing has been off to the races. They had earnings a couple of days ago, too, on the 15th, and those were apparently good as well, because the combination has just been combining to make this thing just off to over 5x just in the past couple of weeks. So this is why, Greg, this is why I like having brokers on the show, because there's always these little pockets, these little, nuggets, because everyone trades Apple. Everyone has a lot of activity in the Apples and, the Walmarts, the Googles, the Facebooks, pick your poison. Everyone's got clients trading those. But it also is interesting to me that kind of every broker that comes on these shows, their clients always have some little interesting client base and activity in some name that I've never heard of, and usually is pretty interesting. So this is why I like picking your guys' brains on this. You have these weird pockets of activity. It shows you Fidelity, big name, but you still have these interesting little pockets over there as well. Then we'll have to break this one down, I think, for the odd block. Unfortunately, there are no options. There were no options available as of today, but given the fact that it's gone from $1 to $8, that may be changing soon. It's going to become optionable soon. And then you can have your clients slinging a bunch of options over there as well. Speaking of clients slinging some options, let's go out to the hinterland. Let's go up the coast to Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, what options were your clients slinging over there in the land of Option Pit today, sir?
We were looking at actually a lot of SPX, especially I spend most of my time in the pro group now. So mostly SPX, looking at time spreads, setting up some vol products and SPY pairs, stuff like that. All that stuff getting interesting. I was looking at some of the earnings trades, couldn't make anything work this morning. But mostly that stuff with vol getting this low, all that index premium starts looking really interesting from time spread point of view, calendar and retail land. So we're looking at that. And those really were the big things, because there wasn't a whole lot of action going on. Like our guest host said earlier, there was a little tweeting going on, a little China, a little rope-a-dope, a little ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. So, we sold off a little bit. Vol went back to about even for the day. The futures went even. And then, I think we're starting to get used to this. At least I am. I'm looking for a tweet as an opportunity to just put on a slight fade for vol. You never know, because sometimes those things got really wild. But that was the kind of day, and that's not enough to actually give us any momentum. Those generally are kind of momentum killers. And at this point, we need good news to keep Mr. Tusaw and his bullish merry band happy. So, it's a very flat day. And it's feeling like a time spready type of market again, I have to say. I don't have that short-term go-go in me right now.
You're not feeling it. Well, you're right. It's kind of funny, like Greg was mentioning, one of those kind of quiet days, and then we get an errant tweet, and then all of a sudden things start happening. That's pretty much, that's the script for, you can pretty much pick the day of this year, right? You could probably apply that to a lot of days of this year. It was not much happening, and then there was a tweet, and then something happened a little bit, not much. But it changed directions. That's kind of a script we've seen play out a few times now over there. Let's move on over. Speaking of over there, we don't know where he is. Parts unknown, just like the Ultimate Warrior himself, his namesake. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what was catching your eye in today's activity in between dodging speed traps?
For sure. Well, in addition to what everyone else has said, just the retail numbers that have come out of J.C. Penney and Walmart, J.C. Penney's down, I believe it was around 12% on the day, just saying that their sales aren't really so hot. Can't really say that's a surprise with the state the company is in right now, but we do have that, with Walmart not looking as hot as people were thinking it was from the standpoint of sales. That's also something. Now, those two stores in and of themselves is not a huge market drag, but we didn't really have a huge market drag today. So combine that with jobless claims being up slightly. I believe it was like 11,000 jobs or something, not very significant. We had slightly bad news, and we had a slightly down day. So it's one of those days to where the market appears to be orderly to an extent. And I'm of the school of thought, I'm agreeing with Andrew, and that this is starting to become more of a time spready kind of market with the vol doing what it's about to do. And I'm personally looking from probably not tomorrow, but likely by next week, I'll be shifting from being vertical to being either diagonal or horizontal in a lot of things that I'm doing as well. Unless things change tomorrow, or because you never know.
You do never know, indeed. We do know about earnings. Greg alluded to Walmart. That's always an interesting one, a hot one. They closed the day today, listeners, after coming out before the bell. Off about 2%, right around 84.5. They're off about $1.60 and change. They're averaging about 72,000 contracts, doing about 260 today, about 2-to-1 calls over puts, which is kind of interesting. If you checked out the earnings move reports we have over there, the Options Insider, you see here that they were pricing in right around close to $4 there in Walmart, and their same quarter moves over the last few years have been about 286. Looks like Walmart did about 320 or so from the open till down till about the low. Got down to about 83, 85. Closed about $1 or a little bit less than $1 north of that. So net kind of not quite peaked the trough, but close to. You got about 320. So you got pretty close to what that straddle was pricing in. It was pricing in. Well, this time it was 393. So they were a little rich on this time. But recent quarters they exceeded that as about 386. Past year moves over the past year, it's done nearly $4, about 380. So the ORATS folks were saying the straddle may be a wee bit juicy there, and that seemed to be the case. Looks like that nearly $4 straddle was a bit much. Also looking after the bell, AMAT coming out. I know a name a lot of you folks out there like to trade, coming out here after the bell. This AMAT closing today right around $54. They were off about 2% intraday, so they were one of the ones kind of pulling down the NASDAQ. And here in the after hours, they're off an additional, it's like about $1.20 or so. So again, another 2%. So a net on the day off nearly 4%, which is pretty much what they were pricing in. The straddle's about 2.25. So they were pricing about 2.25. So far in the after hours, they're only off about half that. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. That's a name that usually gets some decent paper. They're averaging about 40,000 contracts a day. Today, doing about $1.30. Pretty much even. Calls and puts are about 60,000 each, so not a lot of bias in the paper flow out there. Greg, is this a name that lights up the folks over there at Fidelity when they're not trading bank charging, that is? Do they sling a lot of AMAT options over there these days?
It's it amongst some others. The big names always traded. We were just Mark, at the Options Industry Conference, and I think we still see, the big names, have the most volume, when it comes to, options trading here, at Fidelity and within the industry. There was, definitely some, some movement in it today, but just kind of that same thing as we see all the time.
I'm looking here again at the straddle, the earnings move report. Again, you can find these, theoptionsinsider.com. We post these things. This one came out a couple of days ago. It's interesting to see how little has changed in AMAT since this report came out. The stock is pretty much about the same. It was right around $54 when they wrote this up. This price straddle is about 2.25. It went out right about 2.25 today as well. So not a lot of change there. The past average straddle price is about 234. So this is pretty much in line with it, a little bit cheaper, but pretty much in line with it. They were projecting in the past. They projected about 95 cents. The actual move they've gotten is about $1.50. So the same quarter moves, this thing's only moved 27 cents. So maybe a little bit of richness there. Past year moves only $1. So if you're looking at that, then perhaps this one was a bit rich. We shall see. We shall keep an eye on this in the after hours. Meanwhile, though, it's time for us to keep on rolling into that segment everybody loves. It's time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
right, everybody. Welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the program where we break down the weird, the wild, sometimes head-scratching paper that is lighting up the world of options. We kick things off. You haven't been on a little while, Greg, but we kick things off this segment all the time. Checking in on one of our old favorites, a lot of our listeners' favorites. I'm sure probably a lot of your clients over there at Fidelity's favorites as well, which is Tesla. The name that keeps on giving, at least from a volatility and drama perspective. Today, a comparatively quiet day, only off about 2 handles, closing right around 284.5 or so. That's a pretty quiet day for Tesla. Can move 8, 9, 10 handles at a clip, no problem. And our old favorites here, let's check them out. Yes, the Jan 2019 50. Yes, 50 puts. The puts that we discovered, about a year ago now. Been talking about them on and off ever since. Been shining a lot of light. These bad boys got our friend over there, Sakib at Reuters and others to write about these. It's kind of become a bit of a cause celeb in the option space, these Jan 2019 50 puts. The biggest OI position by far in Tesla, which is still a bit of a head scratcher almost a year later that's still pretty much the case. Today, lighting it up to the tune of about almost 1,155 contracts, 56,000 open, 56,300. Greg, I said it's been a while since you've been on, and you done our catch up here on all things Tesla puts. Is Tesla a pretty big name with the Fidelity crowd, or are they more into the battery charging name? And then B, since your last appearance, have you kept an eye on these quote-unquote mystery, some people call them catastrophe puts out there in Tesla? Are any of your Fidelity clients slinging these bad boys?
I don't know about the 50 puts, but Tesla's definitely in the mix of securities traded. It was interesting news today. They may need another $10 billion in capital coming in at some point, and just to kind of shrug the news off. They were up for most of the day, and it continues just to be a name that's constantly in the news. I mean, we'll never know when we're going to see Elon on one of his rockets heading to the moon as well. So, but yeah, it's definitely in the mix of securities here.
They do have an impressive ability to deflect on a regular basis. Oh, we need 10 billion, but look over here, we have a flamethrower. So they've definitely mastered that ability, if nothing else. I mean, we're also seeing that far out of the money catastrophe put, if you will, lining up. Also in the Jan 2020s, the 50 puts out there as well, doing nearly 600 today. So a lot of far out of the money put action. Over 14,000 open on that strike. And I haven't done the search. But I'm guessing those Jan 2020 50 puts are going to start climbing the ranks. They're probably not top 10 yet, but they're going to get there pretty soon if they keep on this level in terms of just the net amount of interest in these puts out here. So far out of the money puts, also worth noting the par puts, the Jan 2020 100 puts, also doing nearly 1,000 today, about nearly 10,000 open on that strike. So call it what you will, mystery puts, catastrophe puts. These are the CDS sellers hedge out there in Tesla. Call them what you will. They were fairly, some may say, crazy active out there today. And Mr. Rock Lobster, let's kick things off. Before we look at today's activity, let's go back a little bit. Because as you recall, sir, on Monday, you and I were chatting about a little name called Teva Pharmaceutical Industries, closing ticker symbol Teva, T-E-V-A, closing today up about a quarter, 21.12. But it's not today's activity that caught our eye. It was back on Monday when you and I were chatting about someone, who could it have been, but someone drawing a pretty decently aggressive line in the sand, certainly a sizable one for Teva. This is the name that averages 36,000 contracts a day. So pretty much almost half of that OI coming, or that ADV coming in one 15,000 lot of these SEP 19 puts going up, paper blasting them out for $1.19 right on the bid. At the time, we were kind of speculating, saying, who could be doing such a thing? Who could be drawing such a sizable line in the sand for Teva? Lo and behold, Mr. Rock Lobster, a day or two later, what should come out? But our old friend, Mr. Buffett, been playing a lot and been increasing his holdings out there in Teva, selling IBM, buying Teva. And we all know Mr. Buffett's never been afraid to sell a put or two. So are you on the train, Mr. Rock Lobster, that this was our old pal, Mr. Buffett, that we were sniffing around back on Monday?
I have to say, remember we were saying, who has that kind of money just to sell all these puts and not give a damn about
Who could do such a thing?
Who has that? Who has those kind of dollars? And surprisingly, he's upping his stake. So I already told you, this is when I'm long. I own a lot of GAM in this one. So I you know, when I just fall into the same position that Warren Buffett has, I feel just, it's not that I feel smart. I just feel, well, lucky. I feel incredibly lucky that happened. So good times for me, good time for Teva shareholders, and the vol is just so darn cheap. Everybody forgets, low volatility. Options love low volatility in a bull market. So that's all I'm going to say right there.
The only thing that makes me
figure it out.
I'm with you. I think it probably was the Oracle of Omaha there. The only thing that makes me think it might not be him was that he's hitting bids. And we all know Warren Buffett, he don't hit no bids when he's selling his puts, right? You come to him and you say, please, sir, would you please sell some puts in our stock, and we will construct this OTC flex for you, and we will pay you a ridiculous premium on top of the value of those puts just for the privilege of having you sell puts to us. That's usually how it goes when he sells puts, is it not?
It is, but I don't know it for a fact, but I know that in 1992, when implied volatility, I think, was the last time we had kind of the 9 VIX before VIX was around, somebody sold about 1 jillion puts in Coca-Cola. Like, they literally, this one customer, don't know who it was, but totally destroyed the volatility in the whole options market for 6 months by selling so many Coke puts. So, and at the time, he hit the bid. Now, a lot of that stuff was paired and stuff like that, but it's, if you buy 10,000 puts and then somebody says, okay, what's your bid for 20,000 more? So I think I've seen him hit the bid before, but I understand that. I just think they don't care. They'll just sell them everywhere. And he's not afraid to obliterate volatility, I think, when he wants to.
I like that. Warren Buffett, not afraid to obliterate the volatility. We'll have to share that out on the old social medias, Mr. Rocklaus. Maybe we'll attribute you. Maybe you'll be lucky. You'll get a little bit of a social media infamy there. Greg, is this a name, Teva? I know folks love to follow Buffett. They love to anything Buffett. There's these Buffett newsletters. Rock Lobster's joking about Coke, but that's one of his, long-standing holdings. Now everyone's talking about Apple. He's buying into Apple. So people love to follow Buffett. So is Teva a name that gets any play on the Fidelity options landscape, or is this more a little bit below the radar when everyone's too busy buying up bank?
Yeah, I think this one may be a little bit under the radar when it comes to trading activity here at Fidelity, but definitely Buffett's popular, and so wouldn't be surprised to see it pick up here in the coming weeks and months. But nothing too crazy from what I can tell here, and just seems to be another name at the moment.
Another one that isn't quite a name in terms of it, but it's a little bit more than that. It does a decent paper. This is our old friend GE. I haven't talked about GE on the odd block in a while, probably because it's not really usually the most exciting of names. It doesn't really move a heck of a lot, doesn't deliver a heck of a lot on the vol space, in terms of all that fun stuff. And but looking here today, GE, of course, ticker symbol GE, closing today right about $15 even. Pretty much it looks like unched on the day or close to it. So interesting stuff out here of GE. This is a name that does looks like close to 250,000 contracts a day, a little bit shy of that. So pretty decent paper out here, doing a little bit more than that, about 255 today. So decent paper out here, about 2.5 to 1 calls over puts out here. And let's see what was catching our eye. Looks like one of their old straight-up trades here this time. Sometimes it's refreshing. We get weird stuff on here, Greg. We get weird ratio swaps and trades and things that takes a lot of parsing. Sometimes it's refreshing to have something some straight-up old-school call love. That seems to be what we got here in GE today. Was the GE D16 calls, a nice 25,000 lot. Going up for 95 cents. Paper just lifting that offer, saying, how many you got? We'll take all those, please. And interesting stuff here. This worth knowing. This is D, so it's the rest of the calendar year, so it's not really an earnings play. Earnings are not till July anyway, so the earnings are kind of baked in there a little bit, but it's not really an earnings play here. It's like just some straight up call love. Worth noting though, there is some size on that strike. There's about 27,000 contracts open, so it is possible that perhaps our friend here got a little spooked when we broke through the 15 handle today. Maybe he was overwriting and decided, discretion is indeed the better part of valor out there on there. Of course, it's interesting to note, though, those other calls, I just pulled it up here via the magic of live vol. You can do it on your platform of choice, listeners. And that open interest was actually open yesterday. 26,000 more of these trading yesterday. So it'd be weird. It'd be very weird to have someone effectively closing the day after. Not the strangest thing we've seen, but it would be very strange to see comments. It probably is going to be additive. I'm going to lean that way. Let's see if the Rock Lobster wants to play point counterpoint with me here. Let's look here. A year ago, look at the chart, see what's been going on in GE. A year ago, it was about 27 and a quarter, 27 and a half. Kind of fluctuated in that range until about October earnings, when it really started drifting lower down into the low 20s. Got down as low as about 12 and change back in April of this year. And then ever since then, it's kind of been on a little bit of an upward tier, getting up to about 15 as we're talking today. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you feeling here? You feeling that this is someone saying, I'm going to second guess those calls I put on yesterday and I'm closing it out today? Or is this just a ton of straight up call love and he's just piling on? 25,000 wasn't enough for him yesterday. He wants 25K more today.
Okay, so here I have a closet theme. One, full disclosure, I own a lot of long-term calls in GE.
What's going on with all of our out of block names are Rock Lobster Holdings lately?
That's what you just
are you tweaking our scanner? Is that you doing that?
You know what it is? That I like out of favor big cap stocks like Teva and GE. After watching stocks move for 30 years, I'm like, they just don't always stay at the bottom, So anyway, it's not all of them, but when the vol's really cheap and I think there's great potential for a long-term play, that's when I do them. So my second thing is I think this customer's buying calls. I've been watching the vol in GE. It's at lowest long-term vols since the beginning of the year. So it's kind of one of those things where it's sort of a sweet spot, I think, for buying calls because nobody cares. And I think somebody cares right now buying these calls. And then my second, since we're going to stay on the Warren Buffett thing that we just had this, my closet theory is Warren Buffett buys GE. It's the last thing he does before he kind of retires, although he'll never retire. He'll probably just die at some point. But he might as well just add General Electric to the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio of names. So like a little feather in his cap just to kind of end a pretty, phenomenal run buying a bunch of stuff when it was really cheap. Might as well get the granddaddy of all American industrial conglomerates. So total closet theory. I have absolutely no proof of any of that, but it would not surprise me if that guy bought about, 300,000 or 400,000 calls.
Are you saying Buffett not only hits bids on puts, he'll lift offers on calls too? Is that what you're telling me?
If they're cheap enough, the guy likes a deal.
That's true. That's true. He does like a good deal
he does.
Over there. He's a bit of a spendthrift, as they say over there. Got billions, but what's the point of spending billions, right? All right, let's move on to our... Oh, really quickly before we do that, Greg, I know GE's a bigger name, a name that gets a little bit more broad mainstream love. Any of the Fidelity clients out there, are they active in GE? Are they maybe they're buying what the Rock Lobster's selling here, that the Oracle of Omaha's going to come for this one wholesale before he retires?
Yeah, I think that you're kind of following that same thing. GE's a big name. It's pretty widely held, and it definitely makes the cut here. It makes our some of our top trading days, as well as always one of the names that piques some curiosity, from folks here. So, kind of following that same line. Yeah, it's definitely on the radar.
I'd be surprised if this last one was on the radar. We're going to go a little bit back down the rabbit hole again. If Teva wasn't enough biopharmaceuticals for you on the show here, listeners, we got one more for you. We got Mylan NV, ticker symbol MYL. This name actually does pretty decent paper for an odd block candidate, about 12,000 contracts a day. We talk a lot of names that do 200 contracts a day, so this is pretty decent paper. This closing today, about 40 even today, up about nearly $1 or about 2%, so a decent day for MYL. Today doing about 125,000 contracts too, about $1.23 coming in the calls. So a lot of call love, 62-1 calls over puts. That's because pretty much all of it came in this one massive trade here, listeners, out here in the June calls. This has going back to, that's why it was refreshing to have the easy, nice little simple call buy there, because this one could fall in a lot of different categories. It was started off, listeners, with 52,611 of the June 40s going up for a $1.60, well below the bid, about a dime below the bid. I believe it was a bit of a late print there going up there, perhaps. And then turning around, and paper also crushing below the bid for 65 cents of the June 42 halves, also doing those 52,611 times. So doing the whole spread for about 95 cents. If it was indeed a spread, or indeed it could be a stupid, one thing that makes me think it's leaning to a spread, perhaps a bit of a roll, is that A, we broke through the 40 strike today, and these are the 40s, and then B, there's about 60K open on that strike, so it could be perhaps that someone deciding to flip the script, though, which would be interesting if they are indeed selling both. You know, the out of sequence print makes it a little bit kind of difficult to determine exactly what they were doing there. I'm still my spidey sense is still making me think it's a roll. Again, a total of 60K going up on the 42 half strikes. Could be a little bit of slight house money roll here. Let's go look at the chart and see if that backs up that. Let's see, about a year ago, it was trading about 38.5 or so. Then it had some rough periods back in late summer, got down to about 30, and then it kind of got in rally homo, got all the way up to about 47. So typical pharma biotech name all over the place, and then got down to about 35.5 again before recently having earnings and breaking the 40 handle again. So, and also worth noting that these 40s were open not that long ago. They were open on the 3rd, so looks like it could have been when they were trading right around 50 to 60 cents. So looks like it could have been a bit of an earnings play that actually worked out, taking them off the table for a little bit of a profit and deciding to keep the game alive. Mr. Rock Lobster, are you feeling that? Or are you thinking this is old school, crazy size, stupid?
I'm thinking that this was a bit of a roll. But wasn't this the EpiPen company? You know, that weren't they in trouble for jacking everybody in the EpiPen?
Yeah, this was Tusaw's favorite. Yes.
And I remember he was very upset about that. It was about the time I had to get an EpiPen for my daughter. It was like $700 or something. I'm like, wait a minute, you know. And then they're like, oh, it only has a shelf life of a year. You got to go buy another one. So I'm like, wow, what a racket that is. And then I realized, but everybody had already hated the stock by then. So I guess it's recovering from its EpiPenness of last year when it was trading like $29. You know me, I like why you roll in the same month. I do not know. And you know, and we do not believe in coincidences if there's 60,000 open. And you see 56,000 trade. Most likely it's a close. Looks like they made some money. And their house rolling, but why the same month? I never have understood that. But I guess people don't take my option trading classes, so they want to, you know, the guy was right for 60,000 contracts maybe, so I guess they're going to keep doing the right thing. So that's what I see there. It's feeling roll. They still want to be long, and I have to say all these little cheapy drug stocks with the low vol and the Trump administration kind of doing something with drug prices, but nothing really draconian. It feels like, you know, I don't want to be short all these drug stocks right now. That's for sure. So that's what my spidey sense is saying on that one.
You're feeling a little bit Buffett-esque. Maybe you want to buy a put, but you don't want to short it. One of those kind of things. Like he was saying about Bitcoin. I got you there. Speaking of Bitcoin, let's keep on rolling because it's Thursday. It's mail block time, and you guys are chomping at the bit to get on the show. So let's do it. Without further ado, let's check in on the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, Greg, you picked a good day to come on the show because you get to answer a whole bunch of people's questions, which is always fun. It's Thursday. It's Mail Block time, listeners. You guys know how to hit us up. Find us on all the big platforms, the ad options, or on the website or the app, or all the other places you can know how to find us. Carrier pigeon, it all works. Let's see. We did ask you guys some questions this week, too. We asked you, giving all the heat on the new Ether index coming out of the CME. We want to know, what do you guys think? You guys are very interested in crypto, we know. What would you like to see? Which derivatives product would you like to see next in the crypto space? We gave you choices of Bitcoin options, Ether futures, Ripple futures, or Litecoin futures. And as of right now, I still got a day or two left. Kind of what I expected. 71%, our crowd wants some options, and Bitcoin options are the one they're leaning on. I don't know, Greg, are you guys at Fidelity? Are you guys getting hit up as much as we are here on the network? People wanting to sink their teeth into some Bitcoin options, or is this not really on your guys' radar yet?
You know, it's on the radar. I mean, there's definitely discussions, from our customers going on, asking, about it. We actually, you can view your Bitcoin on, the Fidelity account. So, I mean, it's something that is of interest. And, it'll be interesting to see, what comes of this market. I mean, with the futures, trading these days, and, with the CME announcement, ongoing. So I think there is more to come, and definitely, interest, and would love to trade some options on this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We're going to have the guy who runs the crypto on our TWIFO program tomorrow from CME. So I'm going to put it to him when we're going to see some options. So hopefully we'll have a bit of an answer. Stay tuned for that, listeners. I expect more hedging on that front like we've been getting since the futures launched, but we shall see. You guys ask us. I will relay your questions to the people who can make it so. All right, let's see. A bunch of you guys asking us questions. Here's an interesting one. Litnick, he wants to know, what is the best, quote, secret options indicator that you use that isn't widely known or followed? I don't use a lot of proprietary stuff. I mean, a lot of things we talk about here on the show aren't widely followed outside of the option space. Like, we talk a lot about skew, and those are things I predicate a lot of my trades on. Those aren't really secret, but outside of the option space, it's kind of not really a widely known thing. That I would probably lean in that category. I don't use any proprietary indicators or things like that are, some sort of crazy oranges to llamas to apple ratio, hedge ratio, anything like that. So nothing's up. I would have to say something, normal to the option space, but not known to the Muggles out there. Maybe something like skew. Mr. Uncle Mike, what would you have to say is the best secret options indicator that you use that isn't widely known or followed?
I don't really use this that much, but sometimes if I'm looking to just kind of do an adjustment on an out-of-the-money option in some way, to just do a roll up or down, sometimes the how soon or how much later the fill price actually happens, sometimes that can kind of predict the market a little bit. So I've never used that, but at some stage, if I'm not getting filled on something that I probably should be getting filled on, and some out-of-the-money option, that might tell me something that someone with a lot bigger money might be looking to do something with that option in the near future. So I don't really have any secret indicators. I'm typically a bull, as everybody knows, but I would say that the one thing that I would say that is secret, that there might be something to, would be how quickly you get filled or not get filled on out-of-the-money options on SPY, perhaps.
Fill rates on out-of-the-money SPY options. I was not expecting you to say that, so interesting stuff. Mr. Rock Lobster, I can always already pencil your answer in for you now. You're going to say VIX negative zone 65, are you not?
Actually, you know what? One of my friends said you should play the Danger Zone soundtrack every time from a Top Gun.
We should do that. As long as you want to pay the licensing fee, I'll do it. No problem.
What was it going to cost us? Like $50 a show to play the
like $72,000 a show, something stupid like that. Yes.
I think the best indicator, least understood, is the VIX future curve. Of course, we're giving a class on that tonight for free, and then doing VXX Made Easy. Probably the best the best index indicator, vol indicator there is once you understand how the curve kind of works. It will make your volatility trading life much easier because you will stop be pushing up a rope and instead giving it a yank at the right time every once in a while. So that to me is the best secret indicator available to everybody out there. You just got to understand how it works.
And Greg, last but not least here, sir, do you have any secret voodoo you use or you follow that the non-options muggles out there they don't know?
I don't know if there's anything secret about it, but I do look at the volatility numbers. Seeing where, along the skew line as you're talking about, just see where some options activities building. I'll do a couple scans, and look and see what's a little bit out of the ordinary, and trade accordingly at that point. But to your point, nothing, no secret sauce.
Kind of like that term, options muggles. I might start using that. I've been reading Harry Potter again, my little guy, and then it's bringing out the Potterverse in me here. All right, what else we got? We got these two questions are kind of related, so maybe we'll just take them both together. The first one comes from Brian P. He wants to know, pretty simple question: what's your favorite underlying to trade options on? Then a kind of a related question coming from Alexi K. asking, how large do you think the universe of readily tradable options is for the investing public? The last one's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll start with that one, give you guys time to think. But, we were kind of just debating this down at the Options Industry Conference. Henry's data, whenever he comes on the Flowmaster, always shows about 20 names do roughly half of the business on most given days, sometimes less than that. And if you have other people, and this is kind of a hotly debated topic, once you get beyond that 20, how many are really what they say trade? Alexi asks for tradable. What person's tradable? That's going to depend on the person. It's a very subjective thing. But it seems like the universe most people will agree on is somewhere another 50 to maybe a total of like a 75, maybe 100 more names that's probably pushing it. I'd say maybe 50 to 75 in that range additional outside of that top 20 that are really, you can really get in there and get some stuff done. You may have to work it, but you don't have to always hit bids and lift offers. You can get some price improvement and stuff in there. So they're viable. And a favorite underlying, I was talking about this one the other day. I kind of jump around. I don't really do a lot. So I was pulling up some of my trades just recently to see what I've been doing that would fit this bill. And it's pretty much all been VIX and VXX stuff. Go figure. Post-February, that's all I've been doing. So lately I have to say that, but it's going to change for me. I don't really stay, I'm not like the rock lobster. I don't stay glued to one thing. Because we do so many shows, we're always talking so many things. I always have to trade and stay up top of the latest thing. So a bit, I guess, of the curse of having this job is I'm not allowed to have just one thing to trade. So I kind of trade a bit. Let's go back around the horn the other direction. We'll start with you, Greg. These kind of related questions. You can tackle them however you want. What's your favorite thing to trade options on? And then he doesn't specify a stock, so it could be anything. You could talk crude, whatever floats your boat. And then how large do you think the universe of tradable options is out there for the investing public?
So I'll tackle the tradable or the securities. Along your lines, I don't have a specific one, but what I will look at is, you read the tea leaves, the charts, and try to find something that, one is in that tradable range of securities, and we'll talk about that in a second, but, has a little bit of a pattern to it, something that, while not, predictive all the time, you could say that, that there is, something to it. So, some support and resistance levels, if I can find some things that look pretty dependable and, something that with a little liquidity, that's, where I'm going to go. Not stuck to, any one security or, in it, in any specific one. So kind of let the technicals lead me a bit to where I want to go and look at a whole, look at the whole universe. And that universe, I'd have to agree, it's pretty small. Top 20 names, and then, as you were mentioning, Henry, talking about, maybe another 50, 75, possibly 100 names. And if you think about it too, I mean, it's even smaller, when you even think about those names from the number of strikes available to trade once you get out beyond, those 20. So even if you're looking to take some, more bullish positions or bearish and, trying to get in between those bid and offers can be a little bit tough, with tradable security or tradable strike prices as well. So I tend to agree it's probably less than 100 and probably less than 20 that really do a lot of the volume.
Yes, at the time I was just checking. So usually, Mr. Schwartz, the Flow Master, is kind of lurking in our chat room, listening to the show. I don't see him in there today. That'd be a fun one to get his 2 cents on as well, because he actually has the data. Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you, sir, to both questions? What's your favorite thing to trade? I know you're going to say the VIX zone, so just stay with that, the VIX. and then also, what do you think of the universe of really tradable for retail options? How big is it out there?
Interesting. So my favorite products, my favorite products? I generally like buying long-term equity vol, and I like managing the kind of the decay with vol products. That's kind of my bread and butter, old guy, relatively low risk option strategy. So that's a lot of what I teach my clients that are interested in that. There's obviously a lot of short-term stuff, but that's kind of my what I like to do the most. So I'm just waiting for things to get to a good place. What I tell our clients is you should get familiar with a relatively small, like 20 names, 25 names, even if you specialize in just a few, to get to know them. So I don't think that like the illiquid stuff is, I don't know, I wouldn't really call it a trade. It's more like an investment, as in I want to own this stock that's relatively liquid. I want to buy some cheap calls and see if it goes up, something like that. Because if you're going to trade anything with a short duration, and I say short is 30 days or less, you need some decent liquidity to get in and out. So that's what that's how I advise clients. That's what I do, and but the top. What I'd say, probably about the top 200 or 300 stocks are plenty liquid for the average investor, but stuff that is illiquid, I would say you need more of a longer time frame to really get anything done and make it work.
Yeah, you got so much slippage in there. You can't really get in and get in and out the same day. You could, but you'd be costing yourself a lot. I think Greg's point about moving away from the at the money is true too. Once you get beyond that 100 or so, you're really talking front month at the money and a few strikes around it. You go 2 or 3 months out and 10% out of the money, forget about it. You're hitting bids and lifting offers. So again, that's why it's such a subjective question, which is kind of interesting. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what do you have to say? Your favorite thing to trade on? You can say SLV if you want. I won't hold it against you. And also the tradable universe of options for retail.
Well, we've talked about this before. I pretty much changed in my career in terms of dealing with underlyings. I mean, I do still to a point, but I can remember being frustrated, maybe 8-10 years ago, when it's one thing if you're doing a 10 lot in your trading account, but when you're doing it with hundreds of thousands of contracts and you're trying to get filled on something, it's very difficult to do so if you're not trading something that's very liquid. So as I grew, I kind of evolved more towards just very liquid names, the Apples, SPY, the XLE, XLF, and all the sector ETFs are kind of become my preference for that reason. Now, in terms of my favorite thing to trade, I would say that because of the fact that in the last 100 years, no major asset class has outperformed U.S. stocks. Nothing's even close by a landslide. Nothing's even close to the performance with which it's gotten. Yeah, markets have gone down at times, but they have come back. It's very difficult for me to want to not do anything besides SPY. Now, does that mean if you buy calls on SPY, you're always going to make money? Good gosh, no. But over time, we're talking about a secret indicator. Well, what I just mentioned is not that secret. So I'm of the school of thought that if you're looking for something with a consistent track record, there's nothing out there that's more consistent. If you're looking for something that can perform well over time, there's no major asset class that's done that. So what I typically like to do is anything bullish on SPY. Now, there's times that I'm not bullish on it to where when I become cautious, i.e. my trademark long-term bullish, short-term cautious. But the way I see it is that why fight it? why try to deny it? I mean, you can try to be the smart bear all you want, but the reality of it is that I will guarantee you that if you go to a party and you say, I've made millions of dollars trading options, and they say, oh yeah, how'd you do it? Well, I had to kind of cheat. I had to just buy calls on SPY. No one's going to laugh at you, I promise. So I'm of the school of thought, why fight the 100-year bull market?
I would laugh at that person. I would say, you're not an options trader. You're just Warren Buffett in disguise, sir. That's what you are. Lifting all your offers on these calls here, like the Rock Lobster likes to talk about. All right, we got a lot of people hitting us up. Let's see if we can squeeze it. Let's do a quick one. One more quick one. People are always sending us so many questions. Let's see. Let's quick one here. QZ98. They wanted a good thing the Viceroy is in here. He'd take umbrage at this question, I think. QZ98 wants to know, do you guys trade options on stocks below $5? What's the cutoff? $1? I got a feeling this question's got to be sparked by our discussion of our old friend HMNY, Helios and Matheson's Analytics. Of course, the parent company of MoviePass. They were trading 63 cents. They got featured on the Odd Block earlier this week. First time ever we've had a name below $1. In general, I'm going to say for myself, no. I don't really do a lot of that. I think it's below $5. You start talking, the stock really gets into option territory, so not a lot of incentive. I won't say never, but I'm hard pressed to think of the last time I did such a thing. Let's go back around the horn the other way. Uncle Mike, sir, quick answer. Do you trade options on stock below $5? And if so, what's your cutoff?
No, and if so, I look more for liquidity, so probably about maybe $10, and even then, it's very few and far between.
There you go. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. Quick answers.
Quick answers. No, I don't trade options under stocks. I don't trade options on stocks under $5.
The Viceroy has infected us all. Let's see if it's a clean sweep, or maybe Greg's the outlier. We shall see. Greg, what do you have to say here? Are you a cheapy option fan?
Of course. No, I'm not. Nope. Not trading anything under 5.
I'm sorry there, QZ98. I don't know which way you were leaning, but you got a resounding no. But hey, go forth and prosper. Maybe you want to go on the Uncle Mike, buy all the SPY calls you can handle, and then go talk about them at dinner parties. I'm sure people will appreciate that. All right, now it's time for us to keep on rolling into our final segment. It is time for Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. This is the portion of the show where we break down what's lurking for the rest of this week into the weekend. I'll do a quick check back in on our friend Applied Materials. Talking about them at the top of the show. They were popping off after the bell here with earnings. They closed right around $54, a little bit shy of that. They're priced in about 2.25, so right around 4%. And in the after hours, they're off about 2.56, so a little over 4, almost 5%. So a little bit of exceeding their straddle. And of course, intraday they were off another 2% as well. So it's been a nice little downside move out there. So if you're long premium out there, perhaps you got a smile on your face. If not, perhaps not. We all know you can't trade options after hours. That was a big discussion we had back again at the OIC conference. I won't bring that up again, but there you go. Hopefully you got to sling some stock, if that's the case. We'll keep an eye on that one, see how it opens. Meanwhile, let's go back around the horn. Greg, you're our guest, so we'll start with you. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week into the weekend, sir?
Yeah, I just want to see how the week's going to finish tomorrow. Not a whole lot of news coming out, although I think I did see where our president and the Chinese delegation may have been meeting while we've been talking. So I'll be interested to see how that all plays out. If anything, tomorrow, if we get a friendly tweet or a not so friendly tweet over the night. So we'll see how that plays out this week.
There we go. Mr. Rocklop, same question for you, sir. Which VIX zone will you be focusing on tomorrow?
The zone I'm focusing on is if we can drop into and maintain zone 1. It is the stickiest one to get into and stay because it's hard for realized vol to get into the single digits. And I believe one of our vol guys I follow a little bit, he's like, okay, well, we're at 20-day vol is 11%, lowest all year. So the trend is down for vol. Again, I don't know if it'll keep lasting, but put it this way, I'm not going to be upset if it continues. Looking for a little bit lower vol, and maybe, if we get any kind of trade deal, NAFTA deal, anything done, I think 2,800 we're going to be there in a giddy up hurry. So that would be my guess.
I'm with you. I wouldn't look askance at some negative 65 zone of VIX there as well. All right, and last but not least, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what do you keep an eye on for the rest of this week into the weekend?
Well, we've had kind of a sideways week. We have not had a major gain this week by any means, so the market has cooled off a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how we actually have to how we can actually not recover, but how the market can continue through this. And just in times like this, when there's not a lot of news, sometimes there becomes news unexpectedly. So there's a certain Twitter account that I will be watching, but I'm going to let the audience guess who it might be.
I know it's ours. You watch ours every day, Mr. Uncle Mike. So we'll keep you glued to all our great content over there at Options on Twitter and all of the other major platforms. That music means we've come to the end of yet another epic sojourn through the world of options, listeners. Talk a little bit of Buffett, hitting some bids, lifting some offers, and pretty much everything in between. He's been a busy man in the world of, at least we think so, in the world of options. Talked some AMAT earnings, talked a lot of other fun stuff. Got some new names on our radar. Hopefully they'll be optionable soon, including, block charging out there, something along those lines. So lots of good stuff on the radar. But before we do, let's go back around the horn one last time. Greg, you're our guest, so you get to kick things off. Fidelity and options, not two words that we hear said together a lot by our audience. So if our audience is interested in learning more about what you and the options team is doing over there at Fidelity, maybe they want to kick the tires for themselves, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, they should drop by and check us out on Fidelity.com. You can go to our investment products page, click on options, and you'll see that Fidelity and options do go together.
What kind of stuff do you have over there for those people? Do you have, webinars, educational stuff? What's over there in the options tab on Fidelity?
Yep, webinars, education, little tutorials on what tools we have available out there, and just a whole bunch of information. We do a lot of good work in the education space with our strategy desk, and do a little one-on-one discussions with our customers, and also small classroom settings, little 4-week classes that you can attend to learn more about options, and much, much more.
There you go. Bet you didn't know you can go to Fidelity and take some small classroom stuff on options. So there you go. Head on over Fidelity.com, click on the investment products tab, and then you're off to the races. And speaking of some options classes, Mr. Rocklaps, if I want to dive deep into all the stuff you're talking about, like these crazy VIX zones, how long does it take to get to zone negative 65? Where should I go? What should I do, sir?
How long does it take to get into the danger zone? Well, we're doing a webinar tonight, but everybody won't know that because of hearing the show. Maybe you could tweet it out. We're doing VXX Made Easy. We're doing the intro webinar tonight, and I start the classes next week. And by the time you're done, you will learn how to trade volatility.
We'll put it in the old chat for you, so people can who are listening now can go check it out for themselves. Do so, listeners. Optionpit.com to do so. There we go. So fun to type and talk at the same time. There we go. And last but not least, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. A lot of things cooking in your neck of the woods. What's up with you these days at RCM?
Well, I am actually rebranding myself. I am going forward. I'm making the national announcement on this show right now. I am going to be known as Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Mark Longo has inspired me with all the wonderful things he has said about my beloved hometown, so I'm going to rebrand myself as that. Everybody can come check out my website at www.stcharleswealth.com. Feel free to shoot me an email at mtosaw@stcharleswealth.com. Coming in the next few weeks, we'll have a blog, we'll have a Twitter account. Very excited. A lot of great things are happening. Now, I'm still trading and working through RCM just like I've always have, but the branding will be different. I am Uncle Mike from St. Charles Wealth Management.
I love it. My branding and marketing invoice will be in the mail forthwith, sir. But I love it. We're going to be able to tweet out your URLs. You'll actually be able to retweet our stuff now. How crazy will that be, sir? Brave new world for you. Congratulations. I'm very excited.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm also looking forward to the free Skippy Zeros and Lemonade that you're going to offer at the office every lunchtime, correct?
Absolutely. Mark, if you come out there any random day, I will buy you Skippy's Euros.
There we go. That might be worth, we are like 3 blocks from Greektown here, but still, that might be worth a nice little trip out to the old suburbs. Check it out, stcharleswealth.com, listeners, to learn more for yourself. And on behalf of Uncle Mike and the Rock Lobster, we kept him late, and Greg, and indeed myself, I want to thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading, streaming, and subscribing. All the other great stuff you do, sending the questions, keep them coming. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you next time for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.